Welcome to the Stoicism Reframed podcast. This is episode number 7, and we are your hosts. My name is George Rudge, and this is Aaron Savage. Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Can't wait to record another episode and have a good chat. How are you?
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, mate. I'm very well. So, I guess without any hesitation, I'll get straight into the quote of this week. It is from Epictetus, and it is, "Every day and night keeps thoughts like these at hand. Write them, read them aloud, talk to yourself and others about them." So, listeners, you may be able to guess, but we are going to talk about journaling this week. So, this is something I think that fair to say that we've both had a fair amount of experience with. Would you agree, Aaron?
Yeah, definitely. We've definitely spoken about it more than once.
So that's a significant amount of experience.
All the experience. We've spoken about it. Two random people. Yes, all the experience, mate.
Yeah, fantastic. So hopefully we've got some value to give. So we'll see where this conversation goes. But I think a good place for us to start is probably to delve into those reams of experience a little bit deeper. So, Aaron, what sort of experience have you had with journaling? How have you found it? Is it beneficial?
Yeah, so I've been journeying for a few years, I guess. Ever since I got into the self-development kind of, I don't know what it's called, but that
World
genre.
scene,
That world, yeah. Ever since I got into that, as soon as you kind of dip your toe in, everything is start journaling. Oh, you got to journal. And I was a little bit skeptical at first. But ever since then, I found it very, very beneficial. And it's something that I do almost every day. Should probably do it every day. I know I should do it every day. But I do it almost every day. So you'll have to forgive me on that one. But we're getting there. And it definitely helps. I can see the benefit of it. But you've been doing it for quite a long time as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So I guess probably similar sort of introduction. It wouldn't surprise me if we probably told each other about it back in the day. But I've used a couple of different types of journaling, if you like. So I think if you say journaling to someone who hasn't had any exposure to it, they probably automatically think of just like a notebook that you just jot your thoughts down, maybe sort of in the morning and in the evening. But there's also sort of structured journals out there, if you like. So people have made journals that have answer or ask you sort of specific questions during the morning, for example, and specific questions at night, just to help generate some thoughts. So I've used sort of both of those styles, if you like. And I think over the sort of years that I have been journaling, I've been off and on. So similar to yourself, by no means perfect with this, but do see great benefit from it when I sort of actively engage in it, if you like. So I guess that's my experience. I'll be honest, I'm not actually actively journaling at the moment, but it is something that I want to sort of bring back into my routine.
Awesome, man. No, that sounds good. I like the fact that you kind of want to bring it back in as well, like you know what it can do for you. So likewise with me, I guess, because I don't do it every day, it's something that I would like to get better at, and I'd like to get it to be more consistent. I just need to actually do it. And the thing for me, I guess, is that I know realistically, all you got to do is write one line. There isn't even a journal, I think, called the 1 line a day journal. Not sure who it's from, but I'm pretty sure there is a journal like that. So worst case scenario, could start straight back there again. If you're struggling to get into it, mate, 1 line a day, that's all you got to do.
Like it. Yeah, so I guess that links nicely back to our sort of the episode we did around goals, wasn't it? And you were saying take that sort of one first smallest step, the easiest thing you can do, and sort of set that as your challenge, which I think for journaling, like you say, is the best way to start. Don't feel like you have to sit there and write reams and reams of information, because you might do it for a week, but you'll probably stop. And I think it also helps to have, I guess, I guess speaking for myself here, but my journaling approach is sort of refined over the years I've been doing it, and I've discovered what's most important to me to get out of my head each day, and down on paper. So yeah, I appreciate that piece of advice, mate, and I shall take it forward.
That's quite interesting, though, what you just said there about what it is you want to get out. See, for me, I feel it's more about just getting whatever is in your head out, not knowing what you want to get out, if that makes sense. So not having a filter as such of that doesn't need to be journaled about. This is what I want to journal about. For me, the practice is more of a just clearing your mind and getting your thoughts down on paper, no matter what they are. So that's something that's very interesting about our different styles there, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess, are you using a journal at the moment that's sort of structured, or are you just sort of free form at the moment, just sort of writing as you please?
Yeah, so like you, I have done both. I have had a 5-minute journal that's supposed to literally take you, as it says on the tin, 5 minutes. I've had structured ones where they ask you questions in the morning. And then I am currently using just a standard notebook with just some lines in it. So every morning and every evening, I just write stuff down when I do it. As I say, I'm not consistent every day, but when I do it, it's just blank.
Right. Okay.
So is yours more questions then? Is it more of a structured thing if you have like an idea of what you want to get out?
Yeah, I think I tend to. So there's definitely an aspect of just, I will tend to, if there's something there that's on my mind, I'll write it down, sort of thing. Or if there's something that's been weighing on my mind, I'll get it out. But I think there's a few things that I find really beneficial. So like in particular, like gratitude. So like writing like a gratitude statement, sort of both in the morning and in the evening, I find really beneficial for my day. I think it just slows me down a little bit and makes me appreciate the things that I do have that are around me, the people in my life and all those sorts of things. Because otherwise I'm very motivated as an individual and I'm always sort of striving forward, but sometimes you can strive forward at the expense of everything else in your life. So I think it's important to try and capture that. So I would sort of, where I left my journaling, if you like, I'd have a blank notebook, but there would be a couple of things that I wanted to make sure I did each day. So I wanted to get some sort of gratitude piece in there. I also wanted to identify the things that were most important for me to get done that day. And then in the evening, it would basically be, okay, well, how did you get on with those things? Any other key takeaways from the day? And then finally finish on that gratitude piece again.
Yeah, see, I do like the gratitude element of it, and that is something I've definitely found beneficial when journaling. And it, like one of our favourite Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, does say as well that having an attitude of gratitude for anything that comes your way is so important. And he even speaks of making sure that you do appreciate everything. So focusing on gratitude in a journal, it forces you to kind of realise the small things that I guess you probably would normally not pay attention to or not really appreciate because you've got too much other stuff going on. So I've definitely found that beneficial as well, that gratitude element.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I think coming into it as well, and if you're listening to this and you haven't done a journal before, you've seen sort of people quote unquote practicing gratitude or whatever it may be, it can all sound very fluffy and very wafty. But it can make a fairly significant impact on just how you perceive things, only slight, but like Aaron was saying there, like you'll look at things that come to you throughout your day in a slightly different manner, and you'll perhaps appreciate them a little bit more. So if you've got sort of, I guess there's some personal experience, Aaron, I think you've mentioned something similar in the past, but particularly if you've got like a close partner or something like that, you don't realise how much they do for you on the day-to-day, whether it just be like making dinner or just anything like that, and it's just part of your routine. But actually realising that person's there and they're going out their way to sort of make your life a little bit easier is important, and I think can improve sort of your relationships as well.
Oh, 100%, mate. I think at the end of the day, it's very easy to just kind of get into that, I don't know, routine where everyone does their job in a relationship or in a friendship and all that type of stuff, that you don't actually take a minute to think about what they're doing and be grateful for that. So it's definitely something that is important. It can definitely enhance relationships, 100%. 100%. But even, again, just reiterating kind of what I said earlier as well about the even smaller things in life, just being able to take a moment to notice the smaller things in life. Again, Marcus Aurelius talks about in Meditations the bread on when it's in the oven, like cracking open in the oven and like noticing that. And it's these small things like that beauty of life that you can be grateful for if you take the time to pay attention to it. And if you're dedicating some time in a journal to focus on gratitude, you do end up noticing these things, because you kind of have to, because you're kind of forced to think, well, I don't want to say that again. I said this yesterday, so what can I write down today? Oh yeah, well actually that was quite nice earlier. That was quite pretty. Or someone did actually let me cross the road in front of them earlier, or held the door open for me. But all these types of things just start coming to you and you notice more.
Yeah. And I guess off the back of that, you sort of notice that more positivity, I think, is sort of what I derive from what you're saying there, and you appreciate things a little bit more.
100%. Yeah, definitely, man. So I think that's one of the big benefits of journaling, especially a structured journal. I guess for me as well, it kind of helps me when I'm journaling learn about certain things that I'm trying to do. Like for Stoicism, for example, if I'm doing my journal in the morning and a quote comes to my head of something as I'm writing something down, it brings that to the forefront of my mind that, oh yeah, this is what the Stoics would have done, and this is what the Stoics think about this, which then helps me to learn more about Stoicism. So I've kind of found like a secondary avenue and secondary benefit of journaling, which I didn't expect, which is that whole learning element, because I never would have thought about it before. But now, as I write things down, as I've read more about Stoicism, as I've read more about the philosophers, I can definitely see that my mind does change when I start writing these things, because different Stoic principles kind of pop into my head. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're noticing those, you're forming your thoughts slightly differently, or not forming them differently, but you've got different, how do I say this? You've got different things coming into play now, so you're thinking, right, okay, well, what would Marcus Aurelius do, or something like that, or what would he say, or something along those lines.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's not even necessarily as structured as that either. Sometimes, 100%, I have sat there and gone, okay, so this is kind of the problem that I'm facing this morning, this is how I'm feeling, how would the Stoics deal with it? But sometimes I can just be writing things down and be like, I had a really bad morning this morning, blah, 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 blah. But the Stoics do say this, and that will kind of pop into my head. Or a quote like what we do at the beginning of the show, that will pop into my head, and it kind of just gives me that kick and that boost that, you know what, other people have felt how I've felt, and this is how some of the greatest minds in history have thought about these things as well. And if they can think these, and if they can do these things, I can do these things, and I can get past it as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. That's nice. Yeah, it's a nice illustration of how this stuff can actually help mold your thoughts, if you like, and sort of make sure you're on that right path, or at least heading to where you want to be.
Definitely.
So I think that's a really nice point what you actually raise about the Stoics, though, because I think if we look at this just on a very simple level, Meditations is effectively Marcus Aurelius's journal.
Yeah, so we can really dive into this, can't we?
Yes. and you've got like Discourses is effectively letters. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously a theme there, that the Stoics gained a lot of benefit from writing stuff down, as well as discussing them aloud, sort of as alluded by that initial quote. So I guess what I'm angling at there is do you think there's an innate benefit in actually writing something down?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. But personally, for me, I kind of have to write things down because I will just forget what is going on if I don't. So, for example, if I'm at work, I have to make notes because otherwise I just won't remember it anyway. Then, as far as your thoughts and all those things are concerned, think it just helps to articulate it sometimes. It's very easy to get stuck in your head and to keep thinking and thinking and thinking, and it's easy for things to spiral. But I don't know if you heard the expression of caging the monkey mind, but our minds are like wild animals at times, and they can just run riot with us. Writing it down can massively help to just quiet everything down and to process it. So I can definitely see why they did it. Obviously, Marcus Aurelius, he wrote his journal or series of journals. He didn't think they were going to be published into a book, and yet here we are, thousands of years later, reading his personal diary. So, I mean, sorry to Marcus Aurelius about that, but fortunately, he doesn't know any different. Hopefully, nobody reads my journals. But that is also something that you can do as well. Like, if you wanted it to be something you can pass down, like your learnings and stuff, you could write a journal with that in mind of what you're learning and what you want your grandchildren or great grandchildren to eventually be able to read and learn from as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I think with particularly, I know we sort of keep on going back to it, but I think it's just the most opportune example of this in sort of meditations. You can almost see, like what you were saying there, around what you're writing impacting your thoughts, and then allowing yourself to process that, and seeing that sort of come through. You can read that in meditations. Like you can read that. Okay, like Marcus is here. He's thinking about this topic, and you find that he goes on about that for the next page, 2 page, maybe whole chapter, and he's actually just going over the same Stoic principle that he's trying to sort of instill in himself. And then what you realise is that actually that's just him trying to almost encourage that from himself. So as reminders to him on the daily basis, to actually practice those things. And I think that's why those little snippets that you can find in meditations are so popular, because it's really distilled. He's really sat down and thought about it. But you can see the sort of journey he goes through with that, and the struggles he has with his own thoughts there.
Oh, 100%. At the end of the day, a journal is what you want it to be. If you want to repeat yourself because there's something that you need to repeat to yourself, that's absolutely fine. This is your thing. It's nobody else's, apart from Marcus Aurelius's, which is now all of us. But he was writing it in that mindset that this is mine. I can, and he can repeat himself. And if you read meditations, he does repeat himself quite a few times about those things. But it's because that's what he's trying to process. That's his thoughts. So it's all right. You're allowed to just write. You're allowed to just brain dump and just get things out, whether it's repeated or not. It doesn't have to have. Sometimes it can have a structure, but it doesn't have to. You know.
I love that. Yeah, I think that is probably one of the key takeaways from this is, yeah, journaling is exactly what you want it to be. I think I alluded to it where I was like, okay, well, I account for certain things, and you've just said exactly there, that it is your thoughts and your thoughts alone, and it can be things that you don't think about a great deal. It can just be things that you just need to get out your head, or it can be things that you really ponder over that have been sort of eating up your brain capacity for a while. But I think that's a perfect opportune moment to potentially segue into the tips and tricks sort of area. Have you got any sort of initial tips that you could pass to people that want to get started with?
Have I got tips on this?
Oh, here we go.
Where do I start, mate? Okay, so I've got a few. I'm going to rattle them off, and then maybe you can tell me if you agree about them or not. We'll see how that goes. But the first tip that I've got is to just actually begin, because it is hard. That's probably the biggest tip here, is to just start. If you know you want to start, just do it, because it's a very difficult thing to get into. It's hard writing about yourself as well and about your thoughts. It's not an easy thing to do, I find, anyway. So getting going on it is the hardest thing. Tip number 1. Tip number 2 is find your easiest and favourite way to do it, whether that is just blank page, whether that is structured. Maybe that's just writing it on your phone, or it's recording voice notes. However it is, think about the best way for you and then do it. Okay, that's tip number 2. Number 3 is similar to what I literally just said a couple of seconds ago, which is don't worry about what people think, because unless you are the Marcus Aurelius of the 21st century, chances are no one's going to be reading your personal diary or journal in 2,000 years. So try not to worry about that.
And if you are, give us a message. We'll get you on.
Yeah, keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely want to know what you're thinking. So that's 3, I think. 4 is, like we said, with the goal setting things, just find out the smallest thing you need to do. And I think you alluded to that earlier. Just the smallest thing that you can do to start journaling, whether that's just one line or whether that's writing a whole book, whatever you need to do to make that first step, figure out what that is and do it. And then the last one is to just do whatever works for you. Don't worry about like the rules of journaling or anything like this. There's nothing that is the set way, the right way to do it. Just do what works for you and forget about everything else. So that is from me.
Brilliant.
Few tips. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree, anything to elaborate on there, or just got some more to share?
I agree with all of those. I think on the first sort of 2 points, what I was thinking as you were going through that is, don't let anything stop you from starting now. So like, I know, say sort of just get straight into it, and absolutely do that. Like tonight, if you're listening to this tonight before you get in bed, just find whether it's a notepad, whether it's any old piece of paper, whether you've already got a journal, you just haven't started it yet, and just make some notes. Doesn't matter. Trust me, once you've done 3 or 4 notepads worth of this stuff, you'll have them on a shelf somewhere, and you won't miss the one day that you happen to write on an A4 piece of paper right when you started. So just get out there and crack on with it, really. And like Aaron said, like, it doesn't really matter what you're writing. Just start, write the first sentence, and you'll go from there. I guess the other thing I really liked about what you said there, Aaron, was voice notes. That is interesting. One. Yeah, but I really like it. So obviously it's not as easy to flick back through, but I'm a nightmare for sort of messaging and that sort of stuff. I'm just no good at it. And writing, my handwriting is okay, but not great. So I use voice notes a lot. Like we speak probably through voice notes more than anything else, as I do with sort of a lot of friends. So that's a fantastic one. Yeah, if you could just record your own voice notes, that'd be great.
The only problem with voice notes,
you've just sold me on it. What are you gonna do?
Well, I'm gonna say you on it, and I might just like take it off of you now.
Yeah, okay.
Is that obviously technology isn't always durable. So you can record voice notes on your phone. Your phone could be gone and stop working in a couple of years. So if you have not backed them up, you've lost them. Or you could back them up and something could happen to the cloud or something like that. You never know with technology. But obviously you don't know with paper either at the end of the day. You could just lose a book. You could, worst case scenario is you could like have a house fire and they could burn down. Like you never know with anything, but I feel like technology is a little bit more temperamental than a pad and paper. But at the end of the day, if that's what works, again, do what works. That's all that matters here. Just do what works. You do love a voice note, George. So maybe that's the best thing for you to start journaling again, you know? If that's what you need to do, start journaling, record some voice notes.
Fantastic. I mean, the only other sort of tip and trick, I know I beat this one to death, but I find it very helpful, is if you're going to do it first thing in the morning, like Aaron said, best time to do it. You might not feel the most motivated, but it sets your day off right, and it means it gets done. It's a great way of just getting everything done. And if it is as simple as writing one sentence to start with, so be it. It's nice and easy, nice and quick. And then similarly, just before bed, nice and easy. I mean, obviously with both those things, I know you've mentioned it before, but like leaving something next to your bed, like a journal next to your bed and that sort of stuff, lends itself quite nicely. We're all, I think, innately lazy people. I think we'll always try and find a little bit of a quick route round stuff. So I think you've just got to make this as easy as yourself as you can, really.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I said about the whole do the one thing, that one next step. If it is just write one line, that's fine, do it. If it's even buying a pad, just order it on Amazon on your phone right now. You can get next day delivery, then you can start writing tomorrow. Or find a post-it note, find a piece of paper. Whatever is the next smallest step that you can do it. And that will then hopefully snowball into something where a few months or years down the line, you'll be grateful that you started doing this process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're sort of on the other end of the spectrum, you just have no idea what that first sentence is going to be. Have a quick bash around on Google, look at some other examples of journals, for example, and just sort of see what questions they ask, just the headline questions, whether that is, what am I grateful for today? Or what was the best part of my day? Or what do I want to achieve today? And just maybe make a note of that so you know what to write about. But that should at least get the juices flowing if you're stuck for inspiration.
Yeah, I love that, mate. I love that.
Brilliant. So I've got something a little bit interesting to mention that came to mind whilst we were speaking. So
go for it.
This was something that I actually got told this week. So I haven't done any research into this because it's purely off the cuff, so we'll see where it goes. But when you were mentioning that when you sort of write down your thoughts, the Stoics are more coming into your mind now that we've been started on this journey, if you like, and they're that's sort of steering your thoughts a little bit more than it necessarily would have in the past. So apparently someone, a very clever person, has effectively developed a piece of AI software that they feed material from people. So it uses obviously like linguistics to sort of pick up on stuff. So it could be, for example, Marcus Aurelius. And you could feed this piece of software everything we have from Marcus Aurelius. So the whole of Meditations. And then you could ask it questions. And it would answer you based on the information you've put into it.
So as if you're talking to Marcus Aurelius himself.
Yes.
That is very cool.
Wild.
That is very cool. I mean, I feel like that's a few years down the line before it makes its way to regular folk like me and you, but that is awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, obviously you'd have to pick people where there's a huge amount of information that you could give it and sort of give it the data set to work with. But yeah, fascinating. So you never know, mate. We could have Marcus Aurelius version 2025 on here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we got a hologram of Marcus Aurelius sitting here chatting to us. Now that would be an episode.
That would be an episode. There we go.
But there we go.
So we'll wrap it up on that thought. Hopefully you've got a little bit of value from this one. I think it's a bit of a shorter one, and a little bit lighter hearted, a bit more punchy. So hopefully you've got some good value from it. And like Aaron says, if you think this is going to be something that's valuable to you, just get started. Aaron, is there anything you sort of want to say before we wrap up?
There is just one more quote that I want to give you guys. You know, I love a quote. It's from Marcus Aurelius again.
Oh, he's been very popular this episode.
Very popular this episode. But he says, our life is what our thoughts make of it. And if that is not an excuse or a reason to start journaling, to get some clarity to your thoughts, I don't know what is. So that is my last bit of wisdom, last nugget to give the audience. Over to you.
Brilliant. And we shall leave it there. Guys, thank you ever so much for listening. It's been a pleasure. And if you do get some value from this, which you really do hope you do, leave us a comment if you can. Like the episode, share the episode, leave a review. However you can interact with us on the platform that you're listening to, that would be fantastic. Not only does it show us a bit of a appreciation and show that we should carry on making these, but also hopefully it helps us reach more people as well. So thank you ever so much for listening, and we shall see you next week.